In this video, you're gonna be revealing why the gym could actually be hurting you more than helping you, keeping you less than your best, operating at 70% capacity in your business and at home because of lack of energy and increased stress when you're already in a heightened stress state. So this really comes from a couple years ago. I was in a time period where I decided that I wanted to scale some of my business online. I've already been training in person for a couple of years at that point, and I wanted to get into the online space. So in that time period, I also gone through a couple different certifications. So it was just a overall much busier time period than I had really ever experienced before. Much more workload than I ever experienced before. And in that same time, I had my girlfriend, which is now my fiance. I was taking care of my own health and fitness. And what really made me open my eyes to what was going on, that I was hurting myself more than helping myself, was I started to notice that I was really lacking motivation. And I kept running into this wall that I couldn't get past. Like, I would have these phases in this cycle where I would go really hard and I'd feel really good about where my own personal results were going, health-wise. And then all of a sudden, couple weeks, month later or something, I would just boom, straight down, self-sabotage, wouldn't even be able to recognize who the guy was just a month ago. And it seemed like I couldn't get past this wall that I had put up for myself. And I knew that I was standing in my own way. I just couldn't put my finger on it. As the lack of motivation is concerned, this is totally unusual for me, and especially when it came to the gym. I started feeling like the gym was some type of chore that I never really wanted to do. It became such a nuisance that I didn't want to deal with. And this was very weird because years past, I loved training, and I still love training now, but I loved training. It was like all I looked forward to doing. And it was this total flip-flop where now I didn't really want to train. I felt burnt out all the time. I just didn't feel like doing much of anything. And there was a couple year period, and actually really going back to when I started lifting in general, I would lift 3 to 4 days a week. And then a couple years ago when this time period was happening, I was doing cardio a couple days a week as well. So I was really doing 5 to 6 days in the gym per week. And I kept having these issues, this up and down issue cycles, low energy, feeling really burnt out, and just overall feeling stuck. And I finally just clicked on me one day, and I was just like, something has to change. In order to get new results, I need to have different inputs. So I couldn't keep doing the same thing I had been doing for years in the season of life that I was in. The stress was just too high from what my capacity was. When I was training 5 to 6 days a week and I could go really hard, my only real stressor in life was school. I wasn't in the real world yet. I was just doing school and there's no real responsibilities yet. So I just realized that something needed to change. And I decided to actually reduce my training volume. So I went to 2 strength training days and 2 conditioning days, and then I just walked the rest of the days. And this brought about a lot of fear, thinking I'm gonna gain weight, I'm gonna get fat now, I'm gonna lose my strength, all the things. Because going back to the beginning of training, I absolutely just wanted to get as strong as possible. So we're about losing strength. And really a big thing that drove me for a long time in my training was I just didn't want to be fat. So this was another fear of mine. I didn't want to gain weight back. So I ultimately decided to reduce my training volume. I went to 2 days of strength, 2 days of conditioning, and sure enough, within a month, my motivation starts coming back. My energy starts coming back. I feel much less burnt out. I got leaner in the process, and I was just the same weight. And overall, it was crazy because this was like a complete light bulb moment. And what happens is when our training is not supporting and are conducive of our lifestyle and our work, then it starts to work against us. And I found this out the hard way, unfortunately, because again, I was trying to take what I had always done in years past when my stressors and my lifestyle was nowhere near the same. I was single. It was school again, like I said, and then now I had a relationship that I needed to nurture. I had business that I was trying to extend, and we needed to pay the bills. I was in the real world now. So a different season of life ultimately called for new inputs and how I went about my own health and fitness. When it comes down to it, our bodies only understand stress as it is. It doesn't understand the difference between financial stress, work stress, relationship stress, training stress, the whole bang. So it just understands stress as it is. So if you're in a period where, hey, business isn't going as well as usual, and that starts to bring about fear inside of you, and then, okay, that's now an extra stressor. Okay, and all of a sudden now you go home and you are doom scrolling a lot, and your wife is now making comments about how much you're on your phone, and then you're getting frustrated at that because you just need a time to unplug because of how stressed you are from work, and then that's an added thing. And then now on top of that, you need to add in your training, which is an added stressor because you're exerting yourself. So take all of that, conglomerate all of that, and it just piles on top of each other. So stress is way up here, and now what we can do, exactly what I did in my scenario, is I brought my stress levels down and ultimately started to create new results for myself because I decreased my training stress. My overall stress was much lower. And stress it gets a bad rap nowadays, but it's like this buzzword. Stress is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just too much of it at a certain time, whether it's good things like completely changing who you are as a man or bad things of business isn't doing nearly as well as you expected it to. So big overarching picture is here. We need to have training built for us and our lifestyles and around our work and integrated into that. Training built around life, not life built around training. And this is what I had that the other way. Before, it was my life built around training, and then this started to cause issues because I had real world responsibilities now that I had to take care of. So now what we're gonna get into is how do we create a training split that is conducive to our lifestyle and our work schedules, and overall just integrates nicely into everything and doesn't take away from our overall quality of life and takes away from our business, takes away from our time with family, and overall improves all these areas of our lives and helps us show up the absolute best men that we can be. So this is a 5-step process of determining your right training split. And number 1 is, what is your overall goal? Figure out your overall goal. And then also with this, figure out your why. Dig deep, deep, deep. Why are you trying to achieve this goal? Okay, I want to lose 20 pounds. Why do you want to lose 20 pounds? I want to lead by example for my family. I want to hit 50K months in my business. And I know that my health is something that's going to deter from that, because if I can't show up with a lot of energy, I can't put the amount of effort out that I would like. And part of your goal you need to figure out is, do I want to focus more on strength? Do I want to focus more on conditioning? Do I just want to be fit overall and just healthy? Number 2, determine how many days that you want to train. Maybe that is every day. Maybe you want to take certain days off. If you're like me, I wanted to train every day, but I had to be smart with how I did my training to not overtrain and get myself in a situation where now my training is working against me. So it needs to be done smartly, but maybe you don't want to train every day and you're like, hey, I just want to go in 4 days a week. If you're watching this, you're probably more on the other end where you want to go more than you probably can right now or have the capacity to. This is the exact position that I was in. Now, number 3 is played off of number 2, and number 3 is determine how many days you can actually train. This is where we begin to think about things like work. Or do you have later work nights sometimes? Think about other family responsibilities. Are there nights that you have specific family dinners that are a little bit earlier that you need to be at, or kids' practices, or other hobbies? Maybe it's, hey, every Thursday night, I just want to meet with the guys and we do either a Bible study or we do some type of dinner or whatever it is, these are things to consider inside of your training program. Because again, I am a full believer that training needs to enhance your life overall, your quality of life overall. All right, so number 4, now we want to determine what days of the week that we can actually train. So let me give you an example here. One of my clients, he had a job where he was remote, part-time, but he had to go into work a couple days a week. So Monday and Tuesday, he had an hour commute to work. So he knew that getting up much earlier and then getting home much later than usual, training was basically off the table those 2 days. And he wanted Sunday off entirely, just not do anything but focus on recovery, focus on family time, and just be that. Okay, so with that, we knew our training week is Wednesday through Saturday. So when we have these other things lined up, like our work and understanding family time, then now we can begin to create a split that works for your schedule. So what we did, and Wednesday through Saturday, we had a strength day on Wednesday and Saturday, and then Thursday and Friday, we actually did cardio days for him. And this worked wonders. He went from feeling like he was a failure because we had training programmed on Monday and Tuesday. He felt like a failure because he was inconsistent with those days. So now when we just flipped his days to be more conducive to his schedule, now it was, okay, now I show up these days, and these other days, if I can get something in, great, it's like a bonus. But really my training week is Wednesday to Saturday. It completely changed his mindset. Now number 5, depending on all the data, all the information that we just came up with, that we just put together, we can finally begin to put our split together. So I will use mine, for example. One that I've been doing for probably the better part of the last year is Sunday. I like just Sunday off, no training, just do church and spend time with family. And then Mondays, I try to load with work. I did this for a long time, more the last couple weeks, month. I've actually started training on Mondays. But for a very long time, I only trained on Tuesday through Saturday. And reason being was because Mondays, I just wanted to pack as much work in as possible and front load the week. So that way each day, the week just kind of like dwindled off more and more. So I didn't look like, I didn't think that I had the time to train ultimately because I wanted to just pack it with work. So then that left Tuesday through Saturday for training. And I kind of went back and forth a lot of times from there. Sometimes it was Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, strength training, which is more of closer to what I've been doing more recently. For a long time, it was just Tuesday and Friday or Tuesday and Saturday strength training, and then conditioning days in between and walking in between. But this was built on exactly what I wanted to do in my overall lifestyle. And this has worked wonders. And it wasn't until recently that I decided to change that split up just a little bit because I just felt like I needed something new and needed to take a little bit off Monday to divvy up a little bit throughout the week because Mondays became so crazy. So I hope that all makes sense. And if this video really resonated with you, then there's a very good possibility that training is the one lever that you need to pull to get some energy back so that you can begin to perform well in your business, but at home again as well. One thing I didn't go too much into this video is this time period affected my relationship with my fiance and I at that time because I wasn't showing up the way that I knew that I needed to inside of my business. And then that led to my own guilt and shame, which then led into our relationships because I was angry at myself and hated myself for the way that I was showing up. So then that just bled straight into my relationship. So the business, the personal, it all bleeds together. And everything did start to get better when I changed my split. That was personally, that was business-wise, that was relationship-wise, everything. It really did start with the training at that point. So if this video resonated with you, you can book a call down below where I help high-performing men beat stress, burnout, low energy, to buy back time for what truly matters in life. Or you can just connect with me on Instagram, shoot me a follow, and shoot me a DM if you want to connect. But other than that, thank you for watching. Leave a subscribe button or hit the subscribe button. Leave a comment, anything you'd like to see more of, agree, disagree, whatever, and we'll see you in the next one.